gal who was in charge was in the hospital, and I couldn't find where she had them. I'm sure she has everything all organized, and I couldn't find it. You leave it to a man to find something, and you're in trouble. Now, I said it before you said it. I beat you to that. But we want to welcome you tonight, and we will have an opportunity for you to meet candidates, to ask. We have some questions you've been able to ask to write down, and we will look through those and take as many of the questions as possible. Try not to repeat the same one over and over, but we will get the same type of question. So as we stand, would you stand with me, please? We're going to ask Shirley Heninger, someone that we all know and appreciate much, if she'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. Just give her a hand. I know she's not running for anything, and I've always appreciated that she's not running. As we begin tonight, we're going to give each contestant. No, that's not a good word to use when you're in the hot seat already. We're going to give each candidate an opportunity to have 3 minutes, and you'll be timed. And at the end of the 3 minutes, we ask that you would please remember that we have a lot of candidates, and you would please then cut it off. We won't throw you out, but we do have somebody up on top. If you see a little red button on you, you want to know it's time to stop. You know, that's just those paintballs, they're really messy. So, and we do have some flags over here, so please watch the flags wave. Green means you're go, and when you see the yellow, you know you have what, 30 seconds? 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and when you see the red, that means stop. Stop. You don't, remember, we don't run red lights. We're going to start. Before we start, we do have a young lady who asked if she could share something. I know she has not been feeling well, and rather than put her through the agony of having to sit for hours, Desiree, would you please come down? I'm going to give her an opportunity to make an announcement she requested to make.
Okay, so my name is Desiree Heninger, and what's that?
Speak up.
Okay. My name is Desiree Heninger, and I was running for city council, and I just wanted to inform you that I am withdrawing. My family has grown, and I don't have the time to dedicate to it that I would like to, and I really want your support to go 100% to Linda, and that's about it. Thank you.
I'm going to ask that the candidates for appeals court candidates, if they would please come down. We'll give you 3 minutes to make an opening statement. So if you could, each of you would be able to use the mic and pass the mic on, please. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your position. And we have on our right.
This is George Fearing.
Thank you, George. And?
My name is Gary Metro.
Thank you, Gary. We have a mic, please, that we'd appreciate if you use it. This building is not really good in the back, so thank you. George, we're going to start with you.
My name is George Fearing, and I am a judge on the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals, it has 3 divisions in the state of Washington. We are in Division 3, which is headquartered in Spokane, and Division 3 hears appeals from superior courts in the 20 counties east of the Cascade Mountains. I was appointed to replace retiring Judge Dennis Sweeney in May of this year, and I have served since then. I love my job, and I'd like to keep my job. If God gave me any talent, it is in reading and writing, and that's what Court of Appeals judges do. We do not engage in, we don't hear trials, we don't hear witnesses, we decide whether or not the correct rules were applied during the course of a trial. Above us is the state Supreme Court. I am delighted to have endorsements from Republicans, Democrats, and Independents and Tea Partiers for election. I'm delighted to have endorsements from law enforcement. I was a private attorney for 31 years in the Tri-Cities. Much of my work was defending law enforcement officers and firefighters when they were sued, and I was honored to serve those who serve us. I have been endorsed by the police chiefs of the various Tri-Cities of Othello. I've been endorsed by the Grant County Republican prosecutor, Angus Lee, Franklin County prosecuting attorney Sean Sant, Benton County Democratic prosecuting attorney Andy Miller. I've also been honored to be endorsed by your county commissioner Jerome Delvin and your county clerk Josie Delvin. And I mentioned that the Court of Appeals race is nonpartisan. I'm delighted for that reason to have this broad base of support. And sometimes when we go to a forum like this, I'm attacked for being a former member of a particular party. I have handled 72 appeals, at least 72 appeals. My opponent has not had any appeals. I was one of 6 applicants for this position. I went through a thorough vetting and investigation process by the Washington State Bar Association. I also volunteered to be vetted by the Washington Association for Prosecuting Attorneys. Every organization found me either well qualified or exceptionally well qualified. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll turn the mic to.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Gary Metro, and Mr. Fearing and I have very different experiences. For the last 7 years, I primarily practiced criminal defense. I represent, for the most part, poor people. I try cases. I've tried dozens of cases in the last 7 years. I've represented people who've been charged with disorderly conduct all the way to murder, who've been facing a day in jail the rest of their lives without possibility of parole. And the people that I represent are in court, and they're looking at due process. And they're looking to the Constitution, they're looking to lawyers, they're looking to judges, so that they get due process. And I'm interested in running for the Court of Appeals, first and foremost, because I believe that we should elect our Court of Appeals judge, not have them appointed. And secondly, because I believe the Constitution of the United States should be interpreted as it was originally intended to be interpreted by the people who wrote it. Sometimes that's not very good for my criminal defendants. Sometimes it's not very good for the prosecutors. I like all the prosecutors around here that I deal with. I like Mr. Miller, I like Mr. Sand. I respect him, I deal with him a lot. I live in Walla Walla, and I like the Walla Walla prosecutor. But I have never, ever, ever tried to make their lives easier, ever. And I know they know that. I want them to have a difficult time proving their cases. We live in a society that incarcerates more people, percentage-wise, than any other place on earth. Any other place. And we have person after person who's dysfunctional in our system that's beyond sad. And the Court of Appeals are men and women who look at things that aren't part really of their experience. They haven't been to jails, they haven't talked to victims, they haven't done anything but sat in a room and looked at transcripts and not seen the ruined lives around them, and tried to relate those transcripts, in most cases, to a so-called living constitution that seems to change with the whim of their feelings. And in my opinion, we need more discipline in the courts, more paying attention to following the law, and at the same time to recognize that the people who are victims and the people who are alleged criminals are human beings. I appreciate your support. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have a question. I think we'll start with you, Gary, since you were last there. Why would you be the best candidate for this job?
Because I have tried several cases. I have written briefs that basically have kept people out of prison, or sometimes not, for the rest of their lives. I have done several search and seizure motions, and I have practiced law through the course of my career in almost every part of the legal business. I've done contract law, criminal law, obviously some family law. And I believe that I have a philosophy that is consistent with the people of Eastern Washington and consistent with the Constitution.
Thank you. Sharon, would you please answer, why would you be the best candidate for this position?
Except for the first 6 years of my life, which I don't remember very well, I've been in Eastern Washington, and I love Eastern Washington, have devoted my life to Eastern Washington and understand Eastern Washington. I was a private practitioner for 31 years. During that time, I had a broad practice of all kinds of different types of cases. As time went on, I more and more focused on representing municipal corporations in litigation, and more focused on representing law enforcement officers. I've already indicated why I in part would be the best judge. Number one, I've handled more than 72 appeals. If I have a talent, it's in research and writing. That's what Court of Appeals judges do. My opponent has not handled appeals. I've been involved in a very stringent vetting process that my opponent has not. That process included questioning of judges and attorneys who have dealt with me. We were timed on our answers, huh? I think every case is very important to everybody, and I will give the attention that is required in every case to make sure everybody is treated fairly.
Thank you. Do you have any rebuttal for that? Did you like either one? Second question, and we will start this time with you, Mr. Ferry. What would you do different from those who held the office in the past?
What would I do different? I read some opinions and I see the judges are not thoroughly addressing the issues, the arguments that the parties raise. The parties deserve answers to the questions that they raise. They deserve a response to the arguments that they forward, and I don't always see those in the Court of Appeals decisions. People, they don't deserve from me that I rule in their favor, but they at least deserve from me a full explanation as to why I'm not ruling in their favor or why I am ruling in their favor. Another thing I want to do is sometimes judges are persnickety. They're not particularly polite to litigants. I believe that critical. I need to serve with humility and treat everybody fairly and kindly.
Thank you. Mr. Metro, would you answer that question?
Well, I certainly agree with Mr. Ferry and everybody should be treated with respect and kindly. I think the Court of Appeals has some good people on it. Certainly everybody tries hard to do the best they can. I do think that the judicial philosophy of the court is often a variety of different marks for a variety of different reasons. I don't think they pay strict enough attention to the Constitution and the statutes. I think they sometimes make up their own law. And I think that it's very difficult to talk about what you would do differently without looking at it in a case in particular. It's easy to make generalities, and unfortunately it's hard to make much sense of them. to actually look at opinions that have changed things and made differences is a little easier.
Thank you. We will allow 2 questions from the audience if anyone has a question. If not, we want to thank you, gentlemen.
I have a question.
Sure.
George Fearing, what is your judicial philosophy?
Tell us.
I think the United States of America is the greatest nation on earth, and it is for many reasons. But one of the reasons is what we call the rule of law. The rule of law is that a judge follows the law. As Mr. Metro has indicated, it's our role to follow the statutes adopted by the legislature. It's our role to interpret the Constitution as it was intended by those who framed it and wrote it. It's not my role to rule in favor of my cronies. It's not my role to use my own personal opinions and predilections and biases and views when reaching a decision. That's wrong. Judges are judges, they're not politicians.
Thank you. We'll give an opportunity to Mr. Metro to tell us his judicial position.
Mr. Fearing's judicial position is somewhat different than mine. Mine is, I look to the Constitution's original intent, period. I don't believe the United States Constitution creates the kinds of rights that have been alleged for the last 25 years. Mr. Fearing's a nice man, and I like him. He's also been a Democrat in this part of the state for a long time. It's not a popular thing to be, and I respect and admire him for sticking to his positions and sticking to his guns. But the fact of the matter is, I have a different point of view because I come from a different point of view. I am not a politician. I am not going to lead in a political party. I don't cotton up to the police. I certainly don't want to live in a dangerous neighborhood and bring danger to society. And I do believe in a disciplined approach to the Constitution that's more in line with conservative thinking, as opposed to the type of thinking that Mr. Fearing has at least been associated with in the past. And I don't need people putting words in.
A 30-second rebuttal.
Well, you are putting words in my mouth. You didn't listen to me. The Constitution should be interpreted as it was designed and intended by the original framers. The United States Constitution is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, human documents on earth. We should cherish it, we should treasure it, we should follow it.
Thank you. You have a rebuttal?
Well, no, that's hard to rebut.
Okay. Thank you.
If I rebutted that, I'd be silly.
Yeah. We want to thank these gentlemen for coming. Let's give them a good hand. Thank you, gentlemen. It's very nice to take the time and let us get to know you. Thank you. At this time, if we could get those from, well, the Port of Benton, I don't believe there's anyone here from the Port of Benton, and I did get, is there? No? I did get a statement from Roy Keck. Elected experience. Based on the Port of Benton Board of Commission in 2007, and is the president of the board for 2012 and 2013. Other professional experience. Commissioner Beck is a native of Richland and attended Richland High School, CBC, WSU Tri-Cities, and is a leadership Tri-Cities graduate. He is retired from Energy Northwest after 35 years in the nuclear power plant industry. Roy and his wife Becky have 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren, all residing in the Tri-Cities along with his parents. Roy is an avid gearhead car, boat, motorcycle guy and founder of the 20-year-old Tri-City Cool Desert Night Car Show event. After his retirement, he and his son Jeff built and operated a custom hot rod fabrication shop with adjacent commercial property located at the Richland Airport. Commissioner Keck is a community-minded public servant and an active member of the Tri-City Development Council, Richland Rotary, Richland Utility Advocate Committee, Richland Economic Development Committee, Richland Yacht Club, and the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. Roy looks forward to the opportunities to continue to advocate for future regional investment in energy-related initiatives, related infrastructure, and jobs. And for more information, if you want to talk to him, you can call 509-947-5325, and I'm sure he would be glad to speak to you. So our statement from Mr. Roy Peck, who said, unfortunately, he was not able to be here and a conflict. At this time, we're going to ask all of those from the Port of Kennewick, if you would please join us. District 1 and 2. And we're honored to have these esteemed gentlemen with us. I've met most of them, and I do appreciate these gentlemen for the things that they do. Well, most of the time anyway. I think we can say that. So we'll start on the far end and work our way this way. So you have 3 minutes. We're going to ask that you would please observe the red flag, since we have quite a few, and if you don't, then I will intervene for you if you need an intervention. He's all right, we will start at the far end then. I can't see that far. Please tell us your name and your position.
Thomas Moak, candidate for Port of Kennewick Commissioner, District 2. I'm going to move over here where most of the people are. It's great to be back in Benton City. 25 years ago, I campaigned for County Commissioner. I was here in Benton City. I was very grateful to have the support of folks in Benton City at that time. Nearly 20 years ago, when I was in the state legislature, I also campaigned here in Benton City because at that time, Benton City was part of the 8th Legislative District. And if everybody had thought like Benton City folks, I would have been elected to the legislature in 1994. But, you know, the rest of those guys didn't think as good as you did. So it's great to be back here now in 2013 running for the Port of Kennewick Commission. You know, one of my favorite thoughts about Benton City wasn't either of those opportunities was when I was running Mid-Columbia Libraries for a while. And I've been with Mid-Columbia Libraries for 34 years. And we were in the beginning of starting a new library here in Benton City. And the great part of that was working with the folks with the Carolina Loers Foundation. Now, when Otto Loers was living, probably people didn't think, well, he was the great visionary for the city of Benton City. But in death, and through the Carolina Loers Foundation, had a chance to work with people with vision. People who saw Benton City, and people who wanted to do new things and thought that having a library in the basement of City Hall, Benton City deserved better. Benton City does deserve better. And so I really enjoyed the opportunity to work with people of vision. And that's why I'm running today for the Port of Kennewick, because of vision and wanting to do things for the whole Port of Kennewick. Now in my platform, I have 3 major areas where I see the Port of Kennewick moving. The redevelopment of Vista Field, Columbia Drive in Kennewick, creating a waterfront destination, Tri-City Raceway in West Richland, the gateway to Mid Mountain, or so they think, although some people here think that the gateway really is, Mayor Carnahan says it's right here. Well, and so it is, and so it is. And all of those projects have opportunities for Benton City. Because the opportunities of creating jobs in the community and bringing people to Benton County, the Tri-Cities are opportunities that Benton City, the EDC, the Chamber have to create jobs and to bring people here to Benton City. And so I am very committed, when I become a Port of Kennewick Commissioner, to work with the folks here in Benton City and Kiona, across the river, all of them, because the mayor says there are actually there's only 2 voters in Benton City who actually live in the Port of Kennewick. But I think that the opportunities to create jobs, Red Mountain, industrial land across the river.
I believe our time is about up.
Well, Randy, I have more to say, but we'll just have to save that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, Leo Bowman.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the Benton City Chamber for hosting this forum, and most of all, I'd like to thank you for attending. What are the differences between my opponent and myself? Well, I owned and operated my own business for over 30 years. In other words, I signed the payroll checks on the front side. My opponent has been a professional librarian, as he said, for 34 years. I have been honored to serve you as a Benton County Commissioner for 16 years. My opponent has served the city of Kennewick as a councilman for 12 years. I retired, he was retired. I think countywide, always have, as exampled in every forum so far, and as well in the Tri-City Herald. My opponent thinks city of Kennewick. As example last Friday when he said Kennewick is one of the places that the port should be putting their experiences and the resources. To date, my opponent has never talked about things or projects that he led or he completed. I do get things done. For example, in the past 10 years, there have been 4 studies completed in the redirection of the Columbia Drive area in Kennewick, which at a cost of well over $300,000, all of which the City Council of Kennewick, the Port of Kennewick, and the Downtown Partnership were involved. To date, nothing has been done on any one of those studies. As a Benton County Commissioner, I've led many projects from one end of the county to the other. Those projects include the expansion of the jail and Justice Center in Kennewick at a cost of over $50 million, on time, under budget, and without raising taxes. The Intertie Road, now known as SR 397, that project has been in the planning stages for over 40 years. It is now complete. It opens up many acres of land owned both by private and as well as the Port of Kennewick for economic development. As a member of the Transportation Improvement Board for 10 years and its chairman, there were over 35 grants that came to the Tri-City area, totaling $18 million for street and road improvements. Under my leadership, the Antinori Road, an international project with substantial amount of funding coming directly from Italy, were designed and paid, as well as Sunset Road. I was the lead commissioner on the Red Mountain Plan. I was a charter member of the Yakima Salmon Recovery Board and led that organization for 10 years. This board included elected officials from all 3 counties, so every city and town on the Yakima River, and a very strong presence from the Yakima Nation. In fact, I was even given special recognition by the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission for my work on salmon recovery. As you can see, I get projects completed. I have served as president of the Washington State Association of Counties. I have served as the chairman of the National Association of County Transportation Steering Committee for 2 terms. As you can see, I work well with many diverse groups. As you can see, I get things done. It takes more than just passion and vision. It takes leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. All right.
Hello, my name is Don Barnes. I was appointed to, I want to start by thanking the Benton City Chamber and everyone for coming out tonight when you could have been home watching baseball or football. So thank you for being here. I was appointed to your Port of Kennewick Commission in May of 2012, so I've been on the commission for about 17 months. A little about myself. I graduated from Washington State University with a Bachelor of Science degree, actually in animal science. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I went on to achieve a Master's in Business Administration from the University of Washington. I could be a Husky, but I'm definitely a Coug. I've been married to my wife, Chris, for about 39 years. We've lived within the boundaries of the Port District, been home-owning, tax-paying citizens within the Port District boundaries for the last 34 years. We have 2 grown children, two grandchildren. I'm running because I want to continue to give back to this community. A little about the port. People ask, well, how is the port doing? How is your port doing? How is our port doing? And I think it's a mistake to look at just one indicator of financial health of a port. When you go to the doctor, doctors usually have all sorts of tests and stuff to determine your health. I mean, they want to take your pulse and your this and that, so many blood measures and everything. And so I think we need to look at many indicators of financial health of your Port of Kennewick. I would like to point out that your Port of Kennewick has over $10 million in cash and cash equivalents on deposit presently. I would like to point out that your Port of Kennewick has had a 90% increase in capital assets constructed over the last 10 years. I would like to point out that your Port of Kennewick had an 82% increase in taxpayer equity. Well, taxpayer equity is the difference between port assets and port liabilities. So your taxpayer equity in your Port of Kennewick has increased almost 82% in the last 10 years. Your port has virtually no debt. Your port has a clean audit history, and your port has a balanced budget. And so you might ask, well, hey, Commissioner Barnes, is this port perfect? No. Is there room for improvement? Yes, absolutely. What can we do to improve our port? Well, a couple of things we can do is increase our operating revenues or decrease our operating expenses. Right now, our operating revenues are less than half of our operating expenses, and the deficit is about $1.5 million. But again, if you look at all indicators of the financial health of your Port of Kennewick, it's in excellent condition. Well, what have you done, Commissioner Barnes, over the last 17 months to improve our port? Well, we all know about Vista Field. Vista Field, it was estimated, according to a study, that it was taking about $390,000 a year. We voted to close and redevelop Vista Field. That will have a tremendous impact. We've also refurbished incubator space that Thai Sports graduated from and left and stayed in our community with those non-ag, non-Hanford jobs. And now we have 33,000 square feet of space ready for the new incubation tenants. So if you know anyone that wants to be the next Thai Sports, please have them call the Port of Kennewick. Thank you. I'd love to continue to work for you at your Port of Kennewick.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Gibbons, and I too would like to thank the sponsors of this event, and I wish good health to the person who put it together and quick recovery. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of the things that I've done over the years that I've been around. I would like to introduce my wife of 40 years, my chief door knocker, Doreen, that's with me tonight, though. But I have a number of pamphlets here that I hope you will read that will give you all that bio information. I have an extensive website at electjohngivens.com. So I hope you'll take the time to look at that. And you will learn more about the John Givens. But tonight we're going to talk about the port. I'd like to start with some of the things that Don talked about. And he talked about the financial condition of the port. One of the things that I challenged on related to this election is the operating cash flow difference, operating income and operating expense of the port. And we differ on some of that. The port is in sound financial health, a great balance sheet. A lot of the money that has been put into reserves that Mr. Barnes talked about has been built on the backs of projects that were initiated many years ago that have just come to fruition today. The Spalding Business Park, 10 years ago. The Highway 395 Southbridge project, 12 years ago. The monies that are being generated to those cash reserves are what is making up those, from those projects, is what making up those cash reserves today. Let me give you the Port of Kennewick 2013 budget here that Mr. Barnes signed. Okay? It says operating income is basically $2.3 million short of operating expenses. It says general and administrative expenses $1,728,000. Total operating income, $1,008,000. Now, the port is in excellent financial condition, but folks, it is the only port, considering Walla Walla, Port of Benton, Port of Pasco, Port of Morrow, that has an operating deficit. Now, look at the port budget. Don't believe me. If we continue the way we're going right now, and we don't do something about that budget shortfall, sooner or later we're going to have to pay the piper. I'm a banker. I bring the banker's pen to it. When I was elected to the Public Facilities District Board, we had the same problem. We had an operating shortfall. We were taking money out of reserves. I'm going as fast as I can. And today, we're putting money back into reserves. And it's just a matter of sitting down and saying, how can we increase income? How can we decrease expense? I hope I can have your vote for the Port of Kennewick Commission spot this year.
Thank you, gentlemen.
A couple of questions that we'd like to ask. What support would you envision in helping as we develop our light industrial zoned area? Now, I'd like to make a statement before you answer those questions. As a port district, you represent the area south of Yakima River from Red Mountain to Yakima Road. Most of our geographical opportunities for growth and new tax base lies in the Port of Kennewick's district. Therefore, we of Benton City are very interested in what's happening in the Port of Kennewick. So how would you, and let's start in the middle this time, and then we'll start with, how about starting with you, Leo? What support would you envision in helping as we develop